Hey, and welcome back to the Ponzi Papers, written by Max Azzarello. Max was an investigative journalist who set himself on fire outside the Trump trial on April 19th, 2024. Max was a left-wing Democrat voting American who, after his investigations, became crazy depressed. And you can see this in his Instagram photos and his comments that he wasn't well. However, I really enjoy looking for and finding wild and crazy ideas. And I've made a collection of books and things people have written that are just wild and nutto. This stuff, while his writings are unprofessional and they lack focus, they don't have the same crazy fingerprints that I see in other people's writings. And I would like to share these informations for you. I'd like you to analyze them. I'd like you to come up with your own decisions. I'd like you to go look stuff up yourself. And I'd like you to remember there is absolutely, most likely, never any action to take. There's nothing we can do about this situation. It is way more complex and way bigger than any of the original conspiracy theories you might be aware of. Like, honestly, dealing with Nazis or aliens would be way easier than what we're dealing with here. 16 of the Ponzi Papers. This one is called The Fake Israel-Hamas Outrage Sweeping Elite Universities, posted by Max on November 15th, 2023. His too long didn't read reads, as part of the world's largest conspiracy, our most elite and most criminal universities have used the Israel-Hamas war to trick us into thinking we must all be angry, divided warmongers, while they undermine campus protests to keep us from uniting against an endless war. If you haven't yet seen this booklet alleging the wildest totalitarian conspiracy imaginable, I recommend it. The booklet link he posted is not available. The bad news? We've been taken over by dipshit supervillains who brainwashed themselves into thinking it was a good idea to poison all of the media, culture, and education for decades so they could do a multi-trillion-dollar Ponzi scheme, which is about to send the world economy off the biggest cliff in history. The good news? We have the stupidest form of government in the world history, and we're about to discover the entire economy is a lie. So we're about to mock it mercilessly and abolish it. See this summary that points to key evidence, or follow my post history for proof of every word, along with a host of other rotten secrets that didn't fit in the booklet. In our last installment, we learned just how criminal Reddit is. In order to serve the criminal interests of their supervillain owners, Reddit uses troll armies to make us bitter, divisive, misinformed, and hopeless. They coordinate enough action to get us to think that we must be divided, that we are supposed to be divided, that we can't collectively solve any of our problems, since that's what we see all over social media. This is, of course, gaslighting. They tell us we're in hell world. They make certain that it's true, and they bleed us dry. Central to this is a constant effort to divide the populace. The biggest threat to a secret kleptocracy, which is a fancy name for when con artists take over the government, is a united movement against it, and they know this. So they've sliced us into tribes and bubbles, giving us each a slice of truth and a whole lot of bullshit. That makes us angry at the other tribes instead of the supervillains orchestrating the entire show. Reddit is just one vehicle that has been used for this, but we have countless others. News media slicing us into angry political tribes, knowing full well that both parties are in on the con. Daytime television telling us we're awash in moral decay, that the viewers are good Americans, but that we are surrounded by young hoodlums, addicts, Satanists, and you name it. Reality TV has it right in the name. They show us endless hedonism, materialism, and strife, and they call it reality. Popular films and TV tell us only superheroes can save the world from evil, while they scoff at the idea of collective action, painting the masses as helpless minions who can do nothing but gape at the world shaped by the more powerful people. If you're wondering how any of this booklet's claims can be proven, it's through repetition. When we see something suspicious, we might have a hunch, but if we see a network of people all doing the same suspicious things, we get our proof. For instance, If we find a fantastical science startup that looks like it's faking evidence, we might have a Ponzi scheme. If it's funded by a university that invests in dozens of fantastical science startups that looks like they're faking evidence, we have proof of a Ponzi factory. Let's see some of the repetition in action. Our elite universities, all awash with crypto billionaires and Ponzi schemes, are all manufacturing partisan division around the Israel-Hamas war. Harvard University has erupted in controversy after student groups signed a statement saying they hold the Israel regime entirely responsible for the unfolding violence. A professor at Stanford University has been firing after downplaying the Holocaust, calling Jewish students colonizers and making them stand in a corner. The president of the New York University Student Bar Association said that Israel bears full responsibility for all deaths, that she wouldn't condemn Palestine's attacks, and that she wouldn't say she has empathy for any Israeli victims. A self-identified radical Muslim Yale University professor celebrated the Hamas attacks in the name of armed struggle and solidarity, calling the initial attacks an extraordinary day. A Columbia University professor called Hamas attacks awesome, astounding, incredible, and a stunning victory. A Cornell University professor did similarly, calling Hamas's attacks exhilarating and energizing. At University of Pennsylvania, student protests erupted after the university president condemned Hamas without mentioning Palestinian deaths in Gaza. It's reasonable to address Israel's role of oppression of the Palestinian people. It's unreasonable to celebrate Hamas's terror attack, which will only send more Palestinians to the slaughter. And yet, all these schools, all related to one another via a network of the country's wealthiest and most powerful people, all had students or professors take wildly incendiary, divisive, and unreasonable stances on the Israel-Hamas war. The initial stories are just the beginning of this entirely concocted news. Afterward, we see a host of billionaire donors publicly express their outrage. The Wexner Foundation expressed their revulsion, pleading to withdraw over $2 million in funding for Harvard. While that article calls the foundation a leading voice for the Jewish faith, they make no mention of billionaire Les Wexner's incredibly close ties to Jeffrey Epstein, who ran a Ponzi factory at Harvard. The Lolita Express and Epstein's Manhattan townhouse had belonged to Wexner, and Epstein had Wexner's power of attorney. They are quite literally partners in crime. Mark Rowan, CEO of Apollo Global Management, was one of several major donors to withdraw their support for the University of Pennsylvania in response to the protests. Here we find another Epstein connection. Apollo Global paid Epstein $158 million for financial advice, or investment in Ponzi schemes, of course. Hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackman was demanded that Harvard name the students who expressed support for Hamas. Entirely related, Ackman has expressed support for cryptocurrency. Israeli billionaire Aiden Ofer resigned from Harvard's board in protest. Notably, Ofer co-founded a think tank with Richard Branson. Branson, as I've discussed, has made a career running Ponzi schemes and was one of the earliest investors in a crypto Ponzi via Klinkle. These manufactured crimes serve several purposes. First, they undermine reasonable critiques of Israel. If someone challenges Israel's hawkish stance, now they're lumped in with people who downplayed the Holocaust and called Hamas terror attacks awesome. Second, they piss everybody off one way or another. Remember, a secret kleptocracy is essentially a cult with state power. Just as cult leaders do, they want to divide their members against one another. And since unified college protests are one of the most powerful tools the public has for dismantling a secret kleptocracy, these criminals want to make sure to divide campuses. Third, with all the billionaires weighing in, they want to convey that the smartest, most successful people wouldn't dare criticize Israel. Fourth, we have some Ponzi scheme kafabe. Because these schools and billionaires are flooded with Ponzi schemes, they have much less money than they say they do, because they already stole it out of their own funds. They'll justify some of these budgetary issues by pointing to the billionaires who withdrew their support. Fifth, They tee up attacks on higher education with op-eds like pro-Hamas protests show higher education has crossed the line. They point to these events, which they manufactured, to decry the woke agenda and cultural Marxism, all to influence society into accepting the slow dismantling of liberal arts and social sciences. It's no coincidence that our last Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, is a pyramid scheme heiress who invested in the crypto Ponzi via Theranos. Our leadership is intentionally dismantling education so they can try to make us too stupid to realize we're being conned. Would you like to know more about how wildly criminal these universities are? I've put together an overview of the ones I researched here. And that link just brings us right back here to the Ponzi Paper Substack, where we had Section 15 Crime School Summary. Please go take a look at it 2 episodes ago to learn more. And I'll see you all in the next episode.